In a turn of events on April 9, 2025, President Donald Trump announced a 90-day suspension of heightened tariffs for most of the United States.
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know? They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid. Somebody had to do what we did, and I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate. And that's what I did with China, because they did retaliate. A deal's going to be made with China. A deal's going to be made with every one of them. And there'll be fair deals. I just want fair. They will be fair deals for everybody. But they weren't fair to the United States. They were sucking us dry, and you can't do that. Yeah, I saw last night where people were getting a little queasy. I think everything had, well, the big move wasn't what I did today. The big move was what I did on
trading partners excluding China. This strategic policy shift comes amidst rising global tensions, intense market volatility, and increasing diplomatic pressure. While the pause in tariffs offers temporary relief for numerous U.S. allies, it sharply contrasts with the administration's escalated stance against China, whose imports will now be subject to an unprecedented 125% tariff. The decision signals a complex recalibration of America's trade strategy, as the Trump administration seeks to navigate the intricate web of international commerce, domestic economic pressures, and geopolitical rivalries. Background: a volatile trade environment. Since retaking office in 2025, President Trump has reinvigorated his signature America First trade policies, emphasizing trade reciprocity and the need to reduce deficits. His administration reintroduced a sweeping tariff regime that shook global markets and revived memories of the trade wars during his first term. The policy particularly affected key sectors including steel, aluminum, automotive, and pharmaceuticals. This latest move, a partial rollback, reflects a notable shift. Speaking from the White House Rose Garden, President Trump stated, "The American economy is strong, but we must be smart. Some countries have shown a willingness to work with us. China has not." The initial tariffs sparked immediate backlash from multiple nations and international coalitions. Over 75 countries formally appealed for negotiations, many citing the potential for global economic disruption and retaliatory measures. Domestically, industry leaders, agricultural unions, and Wall Street investors expressed alarm, prompting a reevaluation by the administration. A pause with purpose under the revised directive. The United States will maintain a 10% baseline tariff on imports from most nations during the 90-day window. This pause is explicitly framed as a goodwill gesture to allow for diplomatic discussions and the renegotiation of trade agreements under more favorable terms. However, the administration has been clear. This is not a retreat. Key tariffs will remain intact on sectors deemed critical to national security or strategic interest. These include steel and aluminum, often considered the backbone of industrial infrastructure, as well as automobiles, lumber, and pharmaceutical components. National Security Advisor Emily Hawthorne emphasized the strategic calculus during a press briefing. "This is a tactical pause, not a policy reversal. We are signaling to our partners that we're open to fair trade. But we are also making it abundantly clear that exploitation of American markets will no longer be tolerated." The China exception. The most striking aspect of the announcement is the sharp escalation in tariffs on Chinese goods. The 125% rate marks the highest tariff level imposed on a single country in modern U.S. history. White House officials cited a litany of grievances, including intellectual property theft, state-subsidized industries, and persistent trade imbalances. The administration contends that China has failed to honor previous trade commitments and has actively undermined fair market practices. In a statement from the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, the administration noted, "China has repeatedly violated the rules of global commerce. These measures are necessary to protect American innovation, manufacturing, and sovereignty." This decision is expected to deepen tensions between Washington and Beijing, with potential ripple effects across the global supply chain. Analysts warn of increased costs for American businesses and consumers, particularly in electronics, textiles, and rare earth elements sectors, heavily reliant on Chinese imports. Market reaction. Wall Street responded to the tariff pause with enthusiasm. The S&P 500 surged by 9.5%, marking its strongest single-day gain since 2020. The Dow Jones Industrial Average followed suit, jumping 7.9% amid investor optimism that the move could avert a prolonged trade conflict. Chief economist Linda Mercer of Goldman Sachs described the market response as a relief rally, noting investors were bracing for a global trade war. This pause gives breathing room and indicates that the administration is willing to use nuance rather than blunt force. However, uncertainty remains. The short timeline, coupled with the aggressive stance on China, continues to fuel concerns over long-term stability. Political and diplomatic reactions. The international response has been cautiously optimistic. Leaders from the European Union, Canada, Japan, and South Korea welcomed the pause but emphasized the need for durable solutions. EU Trade Commissioner Marianne Lefevre stated, "This is a positive first step. We are prepared to engage constructively, but any agreement must be rooted in mutual respect and international law." China's response was swift and stern. The Ministry of Commerce in Beijing condemned the tariff hike as economic coercion and vowed retaliatory measures. Early reports suggest China may impose counter tariffs on American agricultural products and initiate WTO proceedings. Domestically, the move has received mixed reviews. Republican lawmakers have largely rallied behind the president, praising the decision as a bold stand for American interests. Senator Mark Reynolds commented, "This is the kind of leadership we need. Fair trade doesn't mean weak trade." Democrats, however, were more skeptical. House Minority Leader Maria Espinoza criticized the administration's inconsistency, stating, "Tariff whiplash is not a policy. We need comprehensive trade reform, not piecemeal provocations." Strategic calculations and future outlook. The 90-day pause serves multiple strategic objectives. Economically, it alleviates immediate pressures on U.S. importers and exporters. Diplomatically, it provides a platform for renegotiation with key allies. Politically, it reinforces Trump's image as a negotiator willing to play hardball while offering off-ramps. Yet the clock is ticking. Trade negotiators now face an intense 3-month window to hammer out new terms or risk reverting to the previous tariff regime. Experts say that the outcome of this period will likely shape global trade norms for years to come. According to Dr. Henry Chen, a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics, this is more than a policy pivot it's a stress test for the post-pandemic trade order. Conclusion: a high-stakes gambit. President Trump's decision to pause tariffs excluding China represents a calculated gamble. It underscores the administration's willingness to flex economic power while offering limited concessions to allies. The sharp divergence in treatment between China and other nations highlights the administration's view of Beijing as a systemic challenger rather than a competitive partner. As the world watches closely, the coming weeks will be pivotal. Will allies seize the opportunity to forge new agreements? Will China escalate the confrontation? And will American consumers and businesses find relief or face renewed uncertainty? For now, the pause offers a moment of calm in an otherwise turbulent landscape. But the trade war's next chapter has only just begun.